Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the afternoon panel session. So for this afternoon panel session, this is our student-centered session. So if you notice, the students are at the center. You, students, are at the center. So we're going to exercise this practice of at least one student is speaking at all times before a professor speaks. So we want to hear you all's voices. We want to hear them loud. We want to hear them strong. We want to hear your authentic voices about this very important topic. So the title of the panel is The Role of the Historically Black and Historically White Institution in African Education. And so a way that I thought we could give focus is to really think about and remind ourselves what the D.O.P.E mission is. So the D.O.P.E mission is to use natural human intellectual capital to redefine and refocus the power of educational enlightenment for adaptive, healthful, vibrant living. And so we are going to have a conversation today, student-led, student-centered conversation about this discussion about what is the role of education in African liberation. So what we'll do first is we will have the students as well as the faculty introduce themselves, and then we'll have some prepared questions that our panel members will answer. So we won't go, down the line, everybody answering, but answering as people feel authentically called to answer. And then, of course, we want the audience jumping in, answering questions as well as asking questions. Okay, so let's begin with our introductions from our panel.
Hi, I'm Anna Lee.
You already broke the first rule.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Maybe yes, you did.
Students speak first. For this out. Go ahead.
Well, my name's Malia Posey. I'm a senior psychology student here at A&T, and I'm from Denver, Colorado. Colorado Springs.
Did you want to go?
No.
My name is Kamiya True. I'm a junior psychology major here at A&T, and with the goal to be a now community psychologist. I just figured that out, but that's what I'm doing.
Okay. My name is Michaela King. I'm from Hanover, Virginia. I'm a graduating senior. And after I graduate here, I'll be attending Bowling Green State for their clinical psych program in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Hi everyone, I'm Imani Belton. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm also a junior here at A&T. Psychology major.
I'm Professor Dogara.
Wow. What you teach?
Oh, in the psychology department.
Anna Lee.
All right. So students speak first. That includes you all. So we're going to jump right into the heart of what we're trying to get to today. So the first question is, what do you think the role of the HBCU should be in African liberation? What is the role of the HBCU in African liberation?
Well, I guess I'll go first. And I think the speaker earlier today, Dr. Washington, he made this really, really great point. He said that HBCUs, they know what's inside of you, and they're going to stick with you until it comes out. And I really felt that throughout my tenure here at A&T because the tenacity of my professors to stick with me and continuously challenge me in a loving way was very, very important and profound on my experience here because at times where I felt like I couldn't continue anymore, they pushed me to continue. And he said, I don't know if you guys are here for that, but he listed this thing. The HBCU purpose is resistance to oppression, defiance of African inferiority. Like what? What? Elevation of consciousness, perpetuation of African genius, and the extension of a legacy of excellence. And I feel like that's all encompassing. Like that is the purpose of us being here.
extinction, you said extinction of legacy. What makes me so special, or HBCU so dear to my heart, my great-grandmother, who was born in 1898, sent all her children to HBCU during the 40s. So, that was before Brown versus Board. They all went to Morris College. So I'm a product of a very, very highly educated family who were educated through the HBCUs. So I know, and I'm a graduate of the premier HBCU, North Carolina Central University. The HBCU is, it keeps our students very dear to their hearts, and it's a very, very loving environment. So it's a good place to come out of.
We gotta have a student next, so either one of these students or any of y'all. What do you think? Good question.
Y'all.
Yes, any. Yes, go ahead.
I feel like the HBCU experience is like coming to an end as a graduate and senior. Coming to an end, it just makes me realize I'm never going to be at a place like this again, where it's like, no matter what I really choose to do, I'm going to have people behind me. Like professors who do their own lives, who do their own research, who have a life of their own. There's still, if I could call them, I could still be like, I need help. It's immediate. Like, I feel like there's nothing comparable to that. It's like being a family. It's like finding, like, for me, it was like finding my black family, because I came here not really expecting to get the experience I had. Like, I came here not knowing what a black identity is, who I was as a black person, and it's almost like overwhelming just to think I was missing out on like my magicalness this whole time, and like being nourished enough to figure out who I am as a black woman. It's like there's nowhere else you could go. Like I couldn't go to NC State and get this. Like I couldn't go to University of Maryland College Park and get this. So it's like this experience, this love, like it's something that I want to take with me and spread it to everybody. So I feel like that's really what the HBCU is.
As far as like HBCUs are concerned, I just believe that they absolutely are important, they absolutely matter, and they are like one of the epicenters of black liberation. Simply because in America, you send every student through 12 years of primary school, and it's Eurocentric, it's white supremacist education. And I feel like HBCU should be that thing that catches these students before they catapult into adulthood and shows them that your culture is important. Your culture deserves to be celebrated. Your culture is pivotal to who you are as a person. And it's not, okay for your culture to just be pushed to the side or to be elected. Your culture deserves to be pushed to the forefront. Your culture is American culture, at the end of the day. So, I mean, HBCUs should be, I feel like everybody should be. Person.
Okay. Go ahead.
So my question for y'all is, that being said, are y'all going to continue on education at a black school?
I feel like, actually, it's like, I just had a conversation with Dr. Keith the other day, and it's like, even if I'm not at a black school, I'm still going to perpetuate what I learned here, because what I learned here could help them even more, because they're under that constant oppression at, for lack of a better word, a predominantly black institution. Like, because they're there and they have that oppression already, I need to liberate them. So it's like, even if I'm not continuing my education at an HBCU, what I take from there, I'm going to continue to educate myself and then continue to educate them.
I think that's a part of the purpose, is that you come to an HBCU so that when you go out into what folks like to call the real world, where you have to experience other cultures, you can now go out armed with the mind that my culture does not have to be pushed away.
Let me interject something right quick. In this space, in this context, typically we talk about PWIs, predominantly white institutions, as if they just happen to be predominantly white. They are historically white, right?
They're
So
traditionally white.
in this space, we refer to historically white colleges and universities. Historically, because At one time, they were exclusive and denied admission to people of other races and ethnicities. Historically, black colleges have never been exclusive. We've always been inclusive, no matter race of any students. So the cognitive difference of saying predominantly versus historically is very important. It's not by happenstance that the majority of students at those institutions are white. It was designed that way and continues to be designed that way. So they are HWCUs.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to speak to the young man's question. So I have chosen to continue my education at a historically white college, and I feel I'm confident in that decision because of the education that I've gotten here. So I do think that it's important if you're able to continue into an HBCU, but I also think that as black students who have gotten this great undergraduate education that we go forth and spread our knowledge elsewhere. You know, so every student is not going to go to an HBCU. So as a graduate student, I'll be able to influence some of the undergraduate students at these historically white institutions, and I think that's just as important because everybody's not going to transfer. You know, everybody's not going to go to an HBCU. So if we are able to get this knowledge here and then go forth into other places and spread the knowledge, I think that's just as important.
Okay. So, moving forward. So we had a chance to, another person, go ahead. So the question was, what do you think the role of an HBCU should be in African liberation?
Well, when I first tried to go to HBCU, I thought about a different world as like and they will always have the spaces for black people. However, even if we do have those spaces, it's like how do we go outside of our campus community and go to the ones that's right outside of those gates? Because most HBCUs are, let's just say, in the hood. So with most of us coming from, with a lot of us coming from low-income families, we're seeing a community that's right outside of our neighborhoods, just like ours at home. So how do we use those 4 years, and when we're in a space that's not really ours, how do we give back to that community? Because that's the whole purpose of HBCUs as well, is we're supposed to give back to the community, especially the ones that look just like us. And I think a lot of our HBCUs have failed to do that.
Okay. So that leads us perfectly into the next question, and I'm going to come to you because I saw your hand. So the next question, and feel free to answer the first question if you wanted to answer the first question or this one. So the next question is, how could A&T, Winston-Salem State, the other HBCUs that are represented here, improve its mission to educate black people, to educate African people? So how could we improve our mission? Go ahead.
So, you speak about historic, and I think that prior, HBCU, I would like to see the culture change, go back in time, or it's slavery, right? So one of the things in my research that I found is a lot of the African cultures had an identity, and I think that we will serve ourselves future by instilling again, once again in us, our divine nature. I think we can talk about education in terms of different disciplines and economics and all of that, but until we get our divinity, black divinity, I think we will lack. That's what I would like to say.
Well, I like to comment on that. I think what's happening today, especially with Dr. Washington speaking, hopefully some people have been enlightened in the sense that when we think about higher education, or we think about education in the context of America with your Ivy League schools, all those schools, we have to realize that those are America's first attempt at educating their citizens. So the idea of education is a very ancient idea in the first place. When you say returning it back to this divinity, that's a very good notion. And think about it like this. We've been talking about inferiority and oppression and all these heavy terms this conference. But the reason why this stuff happened is because of our because of our introduction to the school system, if that makes sense, the school systems and the churches. So it's almost like a catch-22. How are we gonna think ourselves out of this idea of education when that's how they got us? They sort of brainwashed us with their brand of education. So we're gonna return to a more divine sense of education. That's a very good way to look at it for the HBCUs to provide the education that we need, not the Eurocentric lens that we've been conditioned to think what education is. So I think that's a very good point of returning.
So the hand up here. Okay.
So I think to agree with both of you all, I think it's a good thing to, like Dr. Lewis mentioned earlier, how we flip. We have a sense of critiquing the Eurocentric view in a way. And I think that's a good way, we mentioned this before in the last session, that that's a really good way to help people get on this path to consciousness. I think that's definitely the way I've learned here at AMC, and I think it's not that we would eliminate the Eurocentric view altogether, but if we critique it and notice for ourselves as a self-journey, per se, to see that, yeah, this may not be the way it applies to my people, then maybe we have, as a HBCU, we can improve better on that end in curriculum in that sense. Because it's critiquing and it helps you critically think about things in a way that you weren't thinking before, and it helps you do a little bit of meta-analysis on your own self to see how I'm thinking about things in my own education.
Okay. To address what she said, I think it's our responsibility here to pour back into our communities because, as you said, a lot of HBCUs are in the hood. So here at A&T, I know we have a partnership with Hampton Elementary School. I feel like I talk about this all the time because I volunteered at Hampton, or I used to volunteer at Hampton. And we also have a partnership with Washington Montessori across the street. And these are both Title I schools, predominantly Black. And it's our responsibility as students to go in there and, like I said, pour that knowledge into these children. And the self-love that we gain here, we have to reflect that on them because they're not necessarily getting it. I've witnessed things at those schools where the teachers aren't really doing what is conducive to the development of the students. So for us, as adults, as students here, as college students, we have to be that role model for them. And we have to go back and pour into our community. And not only just in our elementary schools, in our middle schools, in our high schools, but just around the community, with our homeless, with people in the women's shelters, and everywhere that you go, you have to pour back into the community.
Okay. Any other responses? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I also want to say too, even if we talk about reflection, with our Aero Crystal with our era, we're so focused on the action part. However, we have to think about liberation takes time. And so we have to find that balance between strategy and action. Because there's sometimes when we have to have dialogue, and then you have to find somewhere, okay, so what are you going to do about it after that? So every time we have dialogue, we might not have some kind of solution. So we got to work our way to it as many times we have dialogue.
Okay, always bringing us back to the next question. So the next question, we're about to get personal, okay? So the next question is about your own liberation journey. When you think about your liberation journey, what has been the single most transformative, liberating moment that you've had? So this moment that you feel like put you on a new course, and how can we replicate that? So that's the next question. For right now.
For right now.
Yes, for right now. So it's open to the panel responses, it's open to the audience responses. I saw some people in the audience eager to respond. That's the question.
No, you can go first.
Okay, so like I interrupted my fellow. I grew up in Colorado too, so my first school that I went to was a historically white college. So I was there and I had perms, I had relaxers, I would not wear my hair like the way it is now if I was there. And just being there, I was like, I like placed myself into a box. So I really was like, oh my God, this is absolutely horrible. I need to connect with black people. So then like I really went to the most extreme. And as I'm cutting my hair off, and then like my mom and stuff, she was like, why are you gonna do that? And I was like, I'm transferring to HBCU. She was like, what? So I transferred, I moved, and I came to Winston-Salem State, and I immediately just tried to find someone to connect with to try to like help me on my journey of liberation, and I found Dr. Lewis along the way. So I just started reading, and then like I had other professors like Dr. Henderson who kind of like helped me see and like they pointed like books into my direction that was important to read to like gain more insight on who I was and like where I came from, and that it was okay to be natural, it was okay to embrace like every aspect of blackness, and that's what I got at HBCU.
For real, Sean?
But we've had, I shouldn't say liberation moment, it's the liberation moment. So we've had some really deep conversations about things that I've never really thought about that should be brought to my attention. And so it's just like moments like that, where I'm just like, I never thought of it like that. Because I personally went to a white school, a white high school, elementary school, all of that. So a lot of things I didn't really think about. I understood that black people are oppressed and stuff, but I didn't understand the depth of it until I went there and we had
Oh, that's dope.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna agree with him on the moments because, like she said, I'm from Colorado too. So, but my high school was predominantly black, but we weren't like sitting and having conversations like this. Like we weren't like wear your natural hair and communicate amongst one another, and we're gonna talk about this internalized and institutionalized like racial oppression. Like we didn't have conversations like that. So even I transferred here. So my first college was in HBCU too, and it was in Arkansas, but it was much smaller, and I still feel like that didn't even create like a think tank like what we're having right now. So when I came to A&T and I came to conferences like this and joined clubs like Black History Club, or if you come to Fight Night, or we just had a conference in Virginia, and those are like the moments that I'm really grateful for that I came to an HBCU, because this right here is like exactly what every single one of us in this room needs, and that's exactly what we need to like explain to your generations that come after us. Like you have to come to places where you're loved and where you're appreciated, and then that is where you get your liberation.
Okay, so I'm a transfer student. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I still don't believe you said it. But anyway. Okay, so before I came here, I did go to a predominantly white institution.
Historically.
Historically white institution. Before I even went to that college, I literally had no African American teachers, none. And when I went to college, I only had one. And she actually spoke life into me. But when I decided upon transferring, I knew I wanted to go out of state because in Minnesota, a lot of times if you do go to college as a black student, you go to the University of Minnesota, right in Minneapolis. No one goes out of the state. It's like everybody who's going there stays there. And I just knew that wasn't for me. So when I applied to schools, I didn't even think about applying to historically black college because I was oppressed. And so I just Googled schools in North Carolina because I have family here. And I found North Carolina A&T. I looked at the website and I said, ooh, black people. So I applied. I should tell y'all. I applied, and on my spring break, I came to visit. Now, I stayed A&T for last. I applied to Winston-Salem State, Johnson C. Smith. I got accepted to those schools too, but I stayed A&T for last because I knew something about the school was going to be amazing. When I got to the campus, I felt like I was family. And I never felt that at any school that I went to ever in life, not elementary, not middle school, high school, even the historically white college that I went to before. But when I came to A&T, and just even before the tour, when they showed you a little video about what the HBCU is about, I just knew like, wow, this is it. So that was my liberation. And I feel great.
I want to make sure we hear new voices, so people who haven't spoken yet, I'm going to go and then I'll come back. Go ahead.
I have to come to the break because I don't talk much. I talk, but a lot of people probably see my face a couple times. I've had an injury, so to say, and I haven't like really been part of this type of culture. I did go to predominantly white high school, historically white high school.
She's not letting nobody slip.
Sharing my story with a couple of these professors, doctors, they really motivated me, and it was more of an understanding. Like, yo, you're black, we're black, we're about to make this work. You're a strong black man, I'm a strong black older man. And that right there was my liberation, because I lost 2 years of my life. Nobody really knows that. And I don't speak about it because, but anyway, it was more of an understanding of love. Was my
Okay. So I saw some new hands over here, so we'll come to them and then we'll come back around. Go ahead.
I think for me, I have several liberation moments. Because I came from a historically white high school. I guess I was the token black friend from like elementary school all the way up to high school. My friends would tell me, oh, Mariah, you're not black. Like, I don't see color with you. You're just cool. All that good stuff. So when I came to A&T, my dad said, Mariah, hopefully when you like it. He was crying when he brought me on. But like, I think it was like black studies, it was some black studies class, some literacy class, and like, I just loved the class. Like, I would call my dad, hey, it's on today, da-da-da-da-da, and it's just like, coming to this HBCU, it just opened my mind to just blackness. Because before, I lived with 4 black people. There are no black people in my neighborhood. There are like, Caribbean girls moved in down the street, so it's like, I'm so serious. So I've never really been around so many different black people. Like, coming here, well, hopefully, everyone's not ghetto. Because that's the perception I saw from like the internet and like what people told me. So just being on this campus, it just opened my eyes to what black people really are. We come in so many different shades, so many different colors. It's just amazing. So I'm liberated.
Go ahead, yes.
I think for me, and I thought a couple of people can relate to this, I was always too white for the black kids, but too black for the white kids. So it was like, for me, my childhood was really a struggle of like real identity. Like, I really didn't know where I kind of fit in. And so I grew up somewhat in the hood, but I chose to go to a magnet school, which was historically white. And so that was my decision because back then it was like, oh no, I'm too good for this. Like, I'm too smart to be in local school. Like, I have to go to the top of the top schools and be with white people because that will signify my status as a smarter than usual black person. So coming here, like, I really did think, okay, I have family members who are like, why are you going there? Like, you could go to UMCP, you could go to, all these other, historically white schools. And it was just like, before I understood what energies were, I went on an HBCU tour, and the minute like we pulled up here, it's just like, well, I couldn't explain it back then because I didn't know what interviews were, but it was something calling me here. Like, I've never felt so at home somewhere outside of my home that I grew up in. Like, I never felt like so welcomed by people I didn't even know. They didn't even care who I looked like. They didn't care that I was a little weird. They didn't care that I talked white. You know, it was like they just welcomed me for who I was. And so now that I understand what those interviews are, I feel like that would be my liberating moment because, like, it was my ancestors' destiny for me to be here. This was my destiny for me to be here, and I would have never known that because even up until moving down here, I was like, man, I just hope it's not ratchet. I hope it's not ghetto down here. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to fit in because I'm not black enough. And so coming here, it just, like, I feel like you have liberating moments, and then, you know, you get so much literature pushed to you that you had no clue black people wrote this literature. Like, I didn't know about the miseducation of the Negro in school. All I knew about my culture was slavery, and then we got Martin Luther King, and throw Malcolm X in there every now and then. You know, it was never Kemet. This is, like, we started universities, and, like, Kobe Cambone, like I said, I just feel like his literature really changed how I thought because, like, that African self-consciousness is so important, and it's something that I need. Like, I feel like we just need to push it as that HBCU collective. Like, that's what we have to push because even amongst HBCUs, like, I'm from Baltimore, so we have Morgan, we have Hopkins, and it's like, oh, you going to NCAT? Oh, that's better than Morgan. Don't go to Louis. You know, that's the ratchet HBCU. Like, that shouldn't be amongst our own culture. So I feel like, if anything, that's what we need to push is that African self-consciousness, that Ubuntu, that love, like, and I feel like that would be my liberating moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come here and then we'll come back over here. Go ahead.
Well, I'm still having liberating moments, and I will forever have liberating moments. I can say what it has done for me, it has allowed me to become, you know, unapologetically black. And by that I mean also a lot of these things that we think are, you know, ghetto in our culture or something like that, I don't look at it like that. It's more about acceptance, like, this is my culture, this is what we do. Just like Professor Turman when he did the gangster rap thing and how when we win, we run around and, you know, some people go, but it's like, me, it's like, hey, that's what we do. Or when our Greeks, when, you know, we stroll around and they stomp and stuff at graduation, it's like, you know, I look at it as like, that's a part of our culture, that's us. And for me, I guess the first liberating moment for me was, you know, I was at Winston-Salem State, and I was in a class that was like Intro to African American Studies, and I had this professor, his name was Kwame Zulu Shabazz. And I don't know about for a lot of, you know, women in here, but my first liberation was with my hair. And so he showed us this documentary called 400 Years Without a Comb. And, you know, watching that documentary, how it, you know, took it back, basically said we left our comb, you know, in the motherland. And so it went all through slavery and how, you know, after, you know, we tried to, you know, and then we were introduced to the thin comb, you know, and so over time, you know, we tried to basically assimilate and change our hair, and, you know, it went all through the whole colorism thing, the nose thing, the lips and stuff like that, and it was like, wow, like I'm looking at, okay, and then you have some of those students who are resistant, you know, to the information, but, you know, I'm learning things, and so that was my first liberation moment. But one thing I can say as a woman, I just had this moment maybe about some months ago, but even learning that about myself, I still had this, you know, view. It was like the patriarchal, you know, view. It's like I was introduced to people like Malcolm X and, you know, Marcus Garvey and stuff like that, and I was praising those men, you know, not thinking I never once praised a woman for anything. And I did not realize that until this semester when I took a class called African American Women's Literature. And even in this class, you know, they talk about feminism. And in the feminism, it's because I'm still like, you know, what's the importance of feminism? Like, how womanism? And it wasn't until I read Edwidge Danicat, Breath Eyes, and in this book, for some reason, I guess learning about the diaspora and learning about Haiti and these other cultures outside of my own, I was able to connect with this Black in her, the characters in her book, it's like, the ancestors, like, speaking to me. And so it was then when I realized, it's not just about being black, it's also being a woman, and how I didn't realize I was oppressed just praising men and not realizing how important womanism or feminism is for me. And it took me learning the struggles of another woman in another culture for me to understand my struggles and understand the struggles that, we as African American women go through. And so now, so that liberating moment for me, I study, women and gender studies. And it's not only helped me understand myself, but it's helped me understand my colleagues. It helps me understand men on a different level. And so, yeah, those are my liberation moments, and I just say that as I'm going to continue.
So let's push to the next question. I saw some hands, but I think your answers will probably speak to the next question, which the next question is a challenge, but I also want people to respond where they're thinking. So the question is, when you think about your liberation journey, where are you going to push yourself to go next? So the question is, on your liberation journey, right, people talked about moments, where are you going to challenge yourself, push yourself to go next on the journey? Okay, we'll start here. I know these two have been wanting to talk, and we'll come to the panel. Go ahead.
ISIS papers. And in there, she suggested that everyone should get informed about African spirituality and energy system. So that led me on a endeavor. That led me to the meta-net. And the meta-net is something all about African cosmology. And it doesn't have a European white supremacist ideology in it anyway. And so, moving forward, it gave me knowledge itself, how I relate to the universe and everything like that, right? So moving forward, I think that we're going to continue to research more knowledge. I think as I do, change, so to speak, continue to fall off.
My liberation is when I actually came to psychology, like and this because I'd always done well in psychology, but I came to but when I came to A&T, I was a different major. I wasn't graphic communication systems. I didn't feel like there was anything else there. And, something always told me you should take psychology. And the moment I came in, Dr. Hall was my teacher. And he believed in me just like he believed in anybody else in his class. I met the other professors after him. And I was lost, for any of this. Because I went to HWC. If I were to say where it would take me next, I'd just say anywhere where there is knowledge, because I have a thirst for knowledge. So anywhere where there's knowledge, anywhere where there's social injustice, just anything where I can fix, if I can do something, just to put that piece of the puzzle there and solve it. That's what I think would take me next. It's not even particular area, just anywhere there is.
I see a couple of hands, so we're going to come to the panel, and we'll move back into the audience. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, because both the last question and this question kind of tie in together. So when I came here, like everyone's been saying, like the love and energy you feel here is something that I've not experienced anywhere else. And to start, well, I've felt a personal connection with every single professor that I've had here. But one in particular, Dr. Sims, who's no longer here, and he was the one who really kind of got the D.O.P.E conference going to begin with. And I took his class, Human Motivation, and he started out kind of like what Dr. Lewis was talking about teaching us, but then making us reverse it into how it specifically applied to ourselves. So we basically had Fight Club every single class, and we had to do it that was like oriented to themes from the book, but then we had to make it our own idea. And that really like got me thinking. And then he would recommend books for us to read about our own like personal liberation and different ways to experience that. And the first book I read was called My Ishmael, and it was just it was getting you to think examine the world from different aspects. So not only like what you've been taught your whole life, but you need to learn from a variety of different sources. So to continue forward, I think I was talking to Dr. Lee like at the last Virginia State Conference. That's my goal for the summer, to just read and just continue reading. So if anybody has any suggestions for books, talk to me after. But that's how I want to continue to go forward, just to keep reading and keep informing myself.
So the previous question and this question kind of connect for me also, because I feel like my biggest liberation experience happened at the Virginia State University Conference, because that's where I was having kind of like a crisis, because Dr. Hall has this 50-page paper that we writing right now, and I'm questioning my life and like just my purpose in school right now, because I was like, how's a 50-page paper going to help me save the world, Craig? And it's not. But after this conference, I really realized that I have this this charge to myself to help continue this learning that I've been doing while here. And my next step in liberation is, I feel like I know a lot, and there's still more that I need to learn about my past and like how to implement this into the future. But what I haven't got over is not hating white people. Like, I'm still in this realm where I dislike white people. And Dr. Cambone said this really, really profound statement. He was like, all that energy that you're giving into hating and trying to push them down so that you can be superior can be given to the black people that need to be pushed towards divinity. And I think that that's where I'm at right now, because, you know, I can't keep trying to promote black people while consistently pushing white people down, because it doesn't work that way. And then I'm just like them, you know, so that's where mine is at.
Now, can I chime in after that?
So we had a couple people from a couple people from the audience had their hands raised, and then we'll come to you. Go ahead.
So I think the challenge for me, my own personal liberating journey, is just making my presence known. I'm very opinionated. I've always had a thought or a comment or something. I just don't voice it. So I think that's definitely one of my challenges, just making my voice and my presence known. For me, my liberating moment, that's my first question. Some of my liberating moments, for me, I grew up mostly around black people. I mean, heck, it is what it is. I lived in Virginia, Maryland, here for about 4 or 5 years. But I've been around other cultures and I've been able to adapt. But for me, my identities were always separate. So, like, with me and my family, my friends, I can be black. But when it comes to, like, my career and professionalism, I had to kind of adapt to the Eurocentric standards and views. But since I came here, it's just like I can be all those things and still maintain my identity as far as my race and who I am as an African American or black woman. So yeah, my challenge is getting my voice out there more, speaking more, and making my presence known as a strong black woman.
Go ahead.
I'm glad that I'm like going right after her, because that's kind of like my liberation journey. Is I'm from Houston, Texas, one of the most culturally diverse cities in the nation. So I grew up always around diversity. I was always in a class where there was a good mix. There was a good mix of black, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, white, whatever. There was always a good mix from middle school, elementary school, through high school. And when I originally went to college, I did go to a historically white university. And I had the same issue, code switch. I prided myself on how well I could code switch. You know, I was like, yeah, when I'm with the fellas, was good, da. When I'm in front of my professors, yes sir, how are you, et cetera, et cetera. And do save my man. So I love that about myself, and I felt like it was something to be proud of. And as I've seen the face of the world change over the last couple of years with increased racial tensions, I realized that unapologetic blackness is so important. It's extremely important. And I think that when we're talking about where I'm trying to go next, it's being comfortable in my blackness in white spaces.
Yes.
I think that's like my goal, because I know that like when it comes to fear, a lot of what black people do stems from fear. The white gaze, white criticism, white supremacy, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to be able to live in white spaces without fear.
Okay, I know you want to say something.
I receive that.
I feel like what's next for me is going further into my black spirituality. I feel like I grew up in a Baptist church, but I honestly feel like that version of Baptist, and it was like, I mean, of course it was community black, but I want to get back to my ancestral spirituality. I think that's what I really want to do, because I feel like if I can create this relationship and strengthen this relationship with my ancestors, I feel like that's like one of the last keys I need to go out into this world and change it for the better. Like, I feel like that's such a pivotal and important, it's like vital to the black is knowing our ancestry and channeling their energies. I feel like that's what I really just need to know next, because there's so much power in that. Like when Dr. Washington was talking about that metal, that's like what the most, it's like it can conduct the most heat on earth, and we can walk on it, and like to think that what is that? It's nothing but our ancestors. Like that's like, it sparks a fire in me. Like it makes me just want to like go out, because that's just how strong we are, like as a people. And if we don't like understand that and channel that, I feel like that's where like the discontinuation is, like the discord is. So I feel like that's what I really need to do, is like strengthen that, and I feel like through that, that's where it's going to get me.
Hi everyone, I'm a senior political science experience, and going back to the question of what my liberation moment was, it was definitely my second semester of my freshman year when I had to take my African American Studies class. First semester freshman year, all I wanted to do was work.
Keep it real.
And then I had to take my African American Studies class. My professor, she isn't here now, but she was so great at what another student said was asking the right questions, making us think, oh well, think differently about how we view ourselves and how we view those who look like us, and what can we do to aid other black people. And moving forward in my liberation, like I said, I'm a political science major, so my quest is to apply the things that I have learned here at ANC into the political world. Because when you step foot on a campaign, where the black people at? There aren't a lot of people who look like you when you step foot on a campaign, or when you step foot at a congressional hearing or different things like that. So that's my quest. How can I apply the things that I have learned here into the world of politics? And that's one thing that I learned working on campaigns, is that especially white people, I don't want to say it like that, but other races look for black people to be silent. They look for you to come in being fearful. They look for you to come in and not have an opinion. They look for you to sit down and put your head down and just do what you're told. And I'm opposite from what my fellow students have said. I pride myself on making sure I come in. Once I step foot in the door, I'm here. I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to be quiet about my opinions on a particular matter. And I think that has fared me well, because when you go in and you shock someone with not being fearful in who you are and what you're here to do and what you're here to accomplish, you get a lot done, and you get a lot of respect. really helped because it was an English class, but she based all the assignments, all the things we had to do off the things that we could, off the things that young black people could connect with. Like, I had to do an essay on powerful, like, music makers in the hip hop industry and stuff like that. And it was a subject that, like, in your normal English class, you're not going to talk about that. You're going to talk about Shakespeare. You're going to talk about, not white literature, but, you know, like
Literature, yeah, that's what it is.
So I really appreciated that and how she tried to connect with us in that way, and it wasn't like ingenuine. It was so like genuine, and it really helped you learn. And so like that's next to what I'm trying to do later. So I'm getting a bachelor's in psychology, but I want to go into public health and be able to affect, you know, like the youth, like black youth and like people who have of low socioeconomic status, be able to go into those communities and let them know that they're still important despite the fact that they're not in big old houses and they're not, you know, like they don't have all the things that white kids have and stuff like that. So I want to be able to do what my teacher did and be able to connect with them to let them know that what they're interested in is also important.
Okay, so we're running out of time. We just have time for a couple more comments. So I saw a hand raised here and a hand raised here. Did anybody on the panel want to wrap this out? Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
I just, what is my concern was, I would say, you know, certain cases and looking, like, walking around campus, seeing everybody, like, just so free and being so, like, not be, like, feeling like they don't have to go through, you know, like, walk around campus, dancing to their music, headphones, you know, singing out loud, just, like, they see somebody over there across the street, they know it's like, hey. And I feel like that was really what for me because growing up, I was very insecure, like, and I was the type that would participate in sports and nothing like that because I felt like somebody would be laughing. So when I came here, I said, yeah, I hope you know, hey, I can be here too. So, like the second question, where I feel like it would lead me because I'm like so touched with making people feel better about themselves and like I think it would be where the lead me is to feel more comfortable with skin and like just embrace it.
I was gonna say, as far as where I feel like children, you know, teenagers and stuff like them. And I think like the impression moments that I've had and continue to have just kind of are connected to them because I feel like if they learn a little earlier than I learned, then they can make farther strides than I have done.
Well, I just have a question, and you know, conversations like this question is always on my mind, but I think one of the biggest problems is, you know, when it comes to, I guess, what we're gonna do with our liberation is a lot of people maybe don't know what to do or how to do it. And so my question is, with all these different, you know, constructs, and you know, we got Kobe Campbell and Dr. Kevin Washington, and them, you know, so it's like, how do we, I guess, not necessarily choose one or the other, but what are we supposed to take from that so that we can share with other people? Because like she said, I think one thing, the first step is getting people to accept who they are, you know, whatever they are, you know, and acknowledging it first. And one thing, you know, during my studies with, you know, gender studies, I know one thing with men, I want more black men to speak about their struggles because that's going to help another black man with their struggles. But because of the oppression that maybe they don't realize, you know, they've been kind of taught to, you know, hold things in. We don't have these problems where we stand in front of audience and, you know, we tell what's painful to us. We don't talk about our childhood, our relationship with our mothers or our fathers have, you know, made us as men. Like, they don't talk about that. And so it's like, where do we get to that point where we realize things like that, you know, will help us instead of keep forcing certain constructs and stuff on you that's telling you not to do that. And it's supposed to be Afrocentric.
Talk about it.
So I'll take a stab at your question. So for me, what I got out of the question is you learning all these constructs. What are the steps? And so for me, I think one of the important first steps is decolonizing our mind. So first, really looking into what we have been given, what lies have been told to us, and what is the truth that we plan to replace. So what is the truth that we plan to replace the lie with? So you have to know the lie. You have to understand what is the lie. The lie always centers in this idea of black inferiority. And then once you know the lie that's been put in you, then what is the truth that you plan to replace it with? And so moving in the space and in the world with this idea that that is a lie, that talking about your truth and speaking your truth is going to make you weak, right? And so what's the truth that I plan to replace it with? I'm going to use my loud and authentic voice all the time to speak that truth, right? And so figuring out, going through and really doing that self-analysis about what are those lies that have been put into you, and then how do you plan to replace them? And I think once you're moving in your truth, it's much easier to understand, okay, I need to be here. This is where I was meant to be. But it's very hard to do that when we're not moving in our truth. Okay, anybody want to close out? Anybody have something that's been burning on their heart, something that they've been wanting to say, or anything that they just feel like would be some good energy to close out the space with?
Thank you for putting this together, and thank you that I'm able to come and be here and see some wonderful experiences. Thank you.
All right. So I think that's a great closing for us. So thank you to all our panelists, and thank you to our